Equinoxe Télévision, au-delà de l'image, nous rendons compte. Equinoxe Télévision, au-delà de l'image, nous rendons compte.
Tonight, in this edition of the primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television, the government of Cameroon has confirmed the killing of 2 gendarme officers in Bingo, Bamenda Northwest region of Cameroon. The early hours of this morning, scores of Bingo residents are now seeking refuge in bushes and in hospital following the escalating tension that has been reigning following the killing of the gendarme officers. In this newscast, we paint the atmosphere in that part of the country. Also ahead, Honorable Joseph Van Dam has so far declared his intentions to challenge Joshua Osei and run as presidential candidate for the Social Democratic Front. It is going to be during the Asia primaries come this month of February 2018. Those are headlines. Stay with us for the details. We shall be right back. Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television. Let's begin right away in Betwa of the East region of Cameroon to talk about the family residence at a neighborhood in Betwa that has been razed by white flames. The Army Rescue Unit that arrived at the scene of the said incident on time enabled the flames or prevented the flames from extending into other nearby houses. Sumanjikan Gabriel has the details in the following report. The report on the fire incident that Suman Jikan Gabriel is going to be telling us how Army Rescue Unit elements prevented the flames from extending into nearby houses. It tells us in the following report that enormous material damage was recorded. The report on the fire incident in Betwa of the East region of Cameroon that has so far razed several properties in a private residence. An incident that occurred that was barely a few days ago. It took the efforts of the Army Rescue Unit for the fire to be brought under control, and they succeeded to stop the flames from extending into nearby houses. Simanjikan Gabriel has the details.
It was a bad day for the inhabitants of the Mbam Valley quarters in Betwa, East region of Cameroon. The uninvited visitor has just made its presence felt at a home in the neighborhood. Onela, who is a family member, tells us, we were in the kitchen preparing food when the other children came to inform us about the fire. The boys' room was on fire, but immediately we got there, it was too late. While waiting for the elements of the Army Rescue Unit, the inhabitants used sand and water to calm down the flames. Minutes later, the Army Rescue Unit arrived and calmed down the situation. Even though the fire was controlled, several properties were lost, with birth and some other certificates, alongside some domestic animals burned. The cause of the fire is yet to be known.
We now talk about rising insecurity. Security forces that have so far secured or survived. A young man was caught with stolen items from a food provision store at Ndokpasi here in the economic capital, Douala. The young man, who has been doing so on several occasions, was simply rescued by forces of law and order. He is currently under police custody, as Manjikan Gabriel tells us once again in this report.
99 days for the thief, 1 day for the owner. Inhabitants of Denier Poto quarters in Dokpasi have just laid their hands on a young man who is alleged to be a hardened criminal in the locality. Witness account says the young man has been stealing from a provision store whenever the owner, who is a Muslim, is praying. After several attempts to catch him without success, he finally fell into the hands of the neighborhood Wednesday after he stole a bucket full of butter and chocolate. The population, who were already prepared to hinge him, were stopped by the forces of law and order, who took the alleged criminal to the station for further investigation.
Now we talk politics, as we announced in the headlines. After the SDF National Vice President, Honorable Joshua Osi, it is the turn of Joseph Mbandam, Member of Parliament for the Momo East constituency in the northwest region of Cameroon, that has declared his intentions to stand as SDF presidential candidate. He made a declaration that was yesterday in Batibo, Momo division of the northwest region of Cameroon, during a district conference of the party. Details with Katran Kone. A clash between the Social Democratic Front's first Vice President, O.C. Joshua, Honorable Joseph Mbandam, and perhaps the National Chairman, John Frunzi, is likely to occur at the party's National Convention February 22nd to 24th, 2018. Two top officials of the principal opposition party have made known their intention to stand as the party's candidate in the presidential election expected this year. After the SDF first Vice President, O.C. Joshua, last weekend was the turn of Honorable Joseph Mbandam, Member of Parliament for the Momo East constituency. He declared his presidential ambitions at the Batibo District Convention of the party.
I have decided to put on my candidature for that post, for that selection. So I have announced my candidature in that regard.
According to him, the national chairman would not be presidential candidate in the imminent election.
I have had convincing signals from the chairman of our party that he is not presenting himself as a candidate for the presidential election.
However, the national chairman, John Frunzi, has not made a clear-cut statement on his stance concerning the party's presidential candidates. Meantime, Honorable Mbandam urged his militants to turn out massively for the 2018 election in a bid to flush out the Biya regime.
We must go for any election which is called, because if we are not present, we will not be able to have people of great moment to continue to articulate this policy.
Honorable Joseph Mbandam is one of the founding fathers of the Social Democratic Front. He has currently served as the Vice President of the National Assembly. And two prominent religious and political figures in Bui Division West in the northwest region of Cameroon, they are Christian Cardinal Toumi and Honorable Joseph Banazem, have reacted to persisting violence and mass destruction in homes recently in the locality of Tadu. Archbishop Emeritus of Douala, Christian Cardinal Toumi, has for the second time in less than 1 month urged the government of Cameroon to provide concrete solutions to the current Anglophone crisis. Christian Cardinal Toumi, who is in Kumbo, reacted to atrocities purportedly committed by security forces. He was speaking to our correspondent in Kumbo, Chris Confon. Let's hear him in the following excerpt.
I did not come from Douala to witness the events that took place in the Mantadu. It happened that while here the events took place, and I wanted to be an eyewitness of what happened. I saw houses burnt. To witness, you ask me saw a young man who said, who told us that his business was completely down. His house was broken into and bottles of beer and sums of money taken away. One of the military men is supposed to have said that they were looking for arms and they didn't find a single gun. To this moment, many people are still in hiding and they do not know when they will be back to the village. So that's what I saw. And I asked myself, that is the village of Mil. The people say they heard that a military man was killed in Tadu, but they're so far away from Tadu and they cannot understand why even the material for water development in the village should have been destroyed.
And Honorable Joseph Banazem, on his part, condemned violence in the locality of Tadu. That was an incident that occurred barely a few days ago, and other neighboring localities described the situation as inhuman. He also called for a fair and just treatment of Sisiku Ayuktabe and co-arrested in Nigeria and transferred to Cameroon recently. He further gave a negative balance sheet of democracy in Cameroon as far as future elections are concerned. Let's hear him in the following excerpt.
They are supposed to be professionals that are supposed to understand that those who engage in such activities don't remain in those areas. Then the army again goes, people who are supposed to maintain law and order, to protect property, to protect lives. They go on the rampage in villages, burning houses, burning foodstuff, burning, grain barns. When people have worked for a whole year to gather their grain for the rest of the families, they are destroyed. People's stores and so on, all ransacked. It is unbelievable. It is unacceptable. It is inhuman. We are for elections. I would say that the SDF is always ready. But there is a big bet. We have an impending situation in the country whereby, be it in the northern part of the country with Boko Haram, in the 3 northern regions, be it in the eastern region with the sort of crisis and revolts that come from Central Africa, be it in the 2 Anglophone regions, northwest and southwest regions. These 3 poles indicate that life is unstable, that there are crises, severe crises, and a lot of disorganization in society. And anybody who wants to talk of living in a serene society, you cannot say that we want to go to elections under these conditions. If it were left to us, these problems should be handled and solved before we go in for elections. Going on, let them be handled like human beings. It's not normal that somebody is caught. Even if it is investigation, you have to investigate to find out whether this person has committed an error, has committed an offense, is right or wrong. Not the case where we have people who are caught and killed, so there's no more investigation. And secondly, to say that we have insisted on dialogue. We have insisted on dialogue from.
And talking about the arrest of Sisiku Ayuktabe and 46 other separatist leaders in neighboring Nigeria that were transferred recently to Cameroon, the Cameroonian government has dismissed what it called social media allegations of maltreatment meted on Sisiku Ayuktabe and the 46 others arrested in Nigeria and transferred to Cameroon. The government of Cameroon stated that the members of the separatist movement are in good health and are being detained at the Yaoundé Judicial Police. The outing today is coming after some English-speaking Cameroonians were asking for evidence as to whether whether they are actually alive. Hundreds of Mbingo residents, as we equally announced in the headlines, in Bamenda are now seeking refuge in bushes and also in the hospital. The area is militarized after 2 gendarme officers were reportedly shot dead in the early hours of this morning. The information was confirmed a few minutes ago by the government of Cameroon. It was a similar atmosphere in Pinyin, that is still in the northwest region of Cameroon, where calm is still to return after gun battle in the early hours of this morning. Several persons are said to have escaped to unknown destinations. It was equally a very tense atmosphere in Bangem. Bangem is a locality in Kupe Maninkuba division of the southwest region of Cameroon, where at least 3 civilians are said to have died. We now talk about something else here in the economic capital, Douala. Authorities are now stepping up efforts to stop the illegal consumption of drugs in school milieu and the society at large. A nationwide anti-drug campaign is on course, and in the littoral region of Cameroon, the governor, Samuel Didone Iba Dibois, launched the campaign at the government high school in New Bell, Douala subdivision. Babla Jonathan has the details.
The consumption of Indian hemp and other illegal drugs within the school milieu and the society is a growing and disturbing phenomenon in the littoral region and other parts of Cameroon. Authorities have embarked on a nationwide anti-drug consumption crusade. Sensitization in schools is one of the cardinal aspects of the crusade.
We are all concerned, and we want all the parents and the students to be a part of this campaign of fighting this marijuana. So the littoral region is standing to fight against this proliferation of marijuana, and we are asking all the parents to be part of it.
During the launching of the anti-drug consumption campaign at Government High School, New Bell in Douala, Thursday, Littoral Governor Samuel Didone Iba Dibois made it clear to all that drug consumption is prohibited by the law in Cameroon.
The consumption of those drugs is not good. They are not allowed by the law, and that's why the Procureur General has said that if you go to do it, may be sure that the judicial procedures are going to be settled.
Faced with growing drug consumption in the school milieu, school officials have been striving to turn the tide.
It can destroy the family, it can destroy your school, it can destroy your life. And now we know that every Monday we have to continue to sensitize our students for the fact of consuming the drugs.
Many students are now aware of the damaging impact of illegal drug consumption on health.
Please, students, you people are my friends. Stop taking drugs because it's not good for an organ. When a human being is taking drugs, it will contaminate his kidney and he can die. We are the future of Cameroon.
Drug is a bad thing that destroys the system. It destroys it psychologically and physically. And when people take it, they think it's helping them, especially when they're having problems. They think it will help them to resolve the problem or you bring solution, but it helps to destroy the system and it destroys the kidney.
Littoral Governor Samuel Didone Iba Dibois has pledged to ensure that all those selling drugs around schools and elsewhere are tracked, booked down and punished according to the law. He assured the population that government is doing everything possible to stop the cultivation, importation, distribution and sale of illegal drugs across the country.
That is Babla Jonathan there reporting about authorities in the economic capital Douala that are stepping up efforts to stop illegal drug consumption in the school milieu and in the society at large. And in sports, the members of the Commission for the Organization of the African Nations Championship for the year 2019 that is expected to be hosted by Cameroon at the African Football Confederation have been meeting in Morocco to evaluate the readiness of the 2019 African Cup of Nations. The meeting comes days after the first inspection team of CAF ended in the country. Cameroon is represented at the Commission's meeting by the Minister of Sports and Physical Education, Pierre Ismail Bidon-Pat, alongside the Normalization Committee's President, Barrister Dieudonné Api. The Commission's decision would be given to the members of the Confederation of African Football, that is the General Assembly that is expected to take place tomorrow. And that it should be noted that we would obviously be bringing to you the results or the resolutions of the meeting that is taking place today, that is going to be tomorrow. And that brings us to the end of this first segment of the news. We shall be talking about the socio-political crisis rocking the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon in the second part of this newscast. Stay with us. We shall be right back. Good evening to you once again, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you so much for joining us in this second segment of the news. We have as guest tonight Mr. Ako John Ako. Mr. Ako John, good evening to you. It must have been very hectic for you to get here because of the traffic in the economic capital, Douala. Yeah. You can imagine that we are having the International Cyclist Tour, and so Douala is a bit very busy. Of course. By traffic. So tonight we are going to be talking about the situation in the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon. We have the latest information that the government has so far dismissed allegations of maltreatment meted on Sisiko Ayuktabe and co that were arrested in Nigeria and later transferred to Cameroon. As far as your reaction is concerned, what according to you made the people to start doubting the whereabouts of Sisiko Ayuktabe and others, or whether they were actually alive? Yeah, you can imagine that Sisiku and its comrades were arrested right on the 5th of January. And I will tell you that up to now, no Cameroonian has had the courage or even an access to either one or the other, except or but for the presentation just made about 3 or 4 days ago by the Minister of Communication, Issa Chiruma Bakari. And so many Cameroonians, not only home, Cameroonians abroad, considering that as they were held in Nigeria, you will equally imagine that right in Nigeria, very few, in fact, the information that filtered the public was that the information was internally cooked between the Cameroon and Nigerian government, that the lawyers or whatsoever, the international human rights organization had access to them. But up to now, many international observers are saying that they haven't had access to these individuals. Even their lawyers. That is what we are saying. Even the lawyers, the United Nations refugee organization is equally doubting if really they are even in Cameroon. And so you can imagine when Minister of Communication said they just arrived Cameroon a few hours ago, but some sources were informed that if they have arrived Cameroon, they might have been in Cameroon long before this period. And so we try to find out whether giving information to Cameroonians has become again a problem to their government, because I believe the right to information is equally a basic right of every citizen and a duty of the state when we come to good governance, that communication and information accountability is an aspect we must take into consideration. So we are always doubting why in a situation like ours, the government is never in a position to inform its citizens. But we realize that since the beginning of this crisis up to now, the Minister of Communication has become the propaganda agent of cooked and manipulated information whenever. Yes, so you can be the government spokesperson, but we believe there should be some sincerity and honesty when you give information to the public, the type of information that citizens wish to know. Remember again that the declaration was made in a very general manner. Sisiku and its comrades, 47 of them, are behind bars. Who are the others with Sisiku? I believe a press release too, giving details of those who were. It would have been more precise. And where are they? In which position? Can the public have access? Can families, can lawyers get access to these people? I believe it would have done Cameroonians more better than getting confused over social media information. That is probably why there was a lot of doubt. Now, what could possibly be the political impact of the arrest of Sisiku Ayuktabe and others.
Yeah, what we are saying is that within the political atmosphere, the interest of the state was that they are going to arrest them, and then the spirit of the people within the region will drop off. And so it will be very, very bad for us to stay in Cameroon, and you realize the information we are receiving to give as a propaganda to the state that the state has won. But I will tell you that it is a lie. Remember some time ago, it was the barrister Bombala, whom Cameroonians thought was at the top of the information. But what happened? When Bala was caught, we see the snaky system of the management was changed to Siseko. And what are we thinking? That arresting Siseko now will equally kill the spirit? I don't want to believe that. It is equally going to be very slippery, that maybe in few days, the movement will have a new leadership. And you know what they do, is that the moment the leader is caught, the movement will always have information to tell the public that. Just
like the view of the opinion of an analyst, he actually indicated that you cannot fight secessionists. You cannot defeat secessionists. You can only fight against the concept of secession. He was kicking against violence. He was kicking against extradition and many other atrocities, according to actors of the civil society like you, that the government is committing. So now, Mr. Ako John Ako, the opinion of this analyst that is talking about the fact that it is necessary to kill the concept of secession instead of trying to fight against secessionists. What do you have to say about that?
Killing secessionists, fighting secessionists, I believe the spirit remains the same. These are Cameroonians.
Secession and secessionists.
Yes, that is
the concept.
If we have,
and
when
the
you have
individuals.
Yeah, secession is the aspect of trying to keep yourself away from another person, so you feel like you are not belonging. And so if you are not belonging, how do we fight secessionists? You don't fight secessionists by arresting them and taking them to prison, or by arresting them and killing, or as we are seeing, there have been brutal killing of innocent civilians within the zone. This is not the response. Cameroonians and the international community have pleaded to the Cameroon government to resolve this issue from the beginning, from the basic. If we look at what happened with the UPCs some time ago, that the leaders were assassinated, but then I believe the spirit still lives on. You can kill the individual, but not the spirit. You will realize that when Martin Luther King was assassinated in the United States, this is even when the human rights movement in the United States gathered more momentum. So killing the people does not mean the ideas will remain. And you equally can try to assess what we realized with the arrest of Nelson Mandela of the apartheid system. Apartheid gave more better grounds than it was even when Mandela was free. And so it ends up that when issues have to do with issues of ideologies, we cannot manage them by brutality or using arms. We have to get into dialogue and see how we can resolve and have a sense of belonging as being Cameroonians.
An indication that the current state of affairs or the recent happenings would not affect the course in any way.
Yeah, no, that is what we are saying. Arresting people, they have arrested a lot, and it has not changed. And so we believe for 2 years, we are getting to the second year, the government need to reason that certain strategies they used 35, 60 years ago to harass or kill leaders of certain movement, and they thought it was a solution to solving problem. Why have French people not been killing their own leaders who opposes the regime? Why have the Americans even put more security in between those who think at human rights activists? Why have we looked in the world, even in most brutal regimes, I mean, even in China and Russia, I believe there is a protection of those who have ideas on how the state should function. And instead the state battled out to put security about this area and try to solve the issues at the root.
And to you, the ultimate solution should be dialogue, Mr.
Dialogue remains ultimate. Not only dialogue, but we need to preach the sense of belonging. All Cameroonians need to know that they are Cameroonians. It is not imposed. Living together is not an imposition of the use of force. Living together is a matter of confidence, a matter of patriotic spirit. And patriotism is not an issue of which is being given by arms. It is being earned by the people. We should feel Cameroonians and be Cameroonians, not being told by a group of what I call bad, inanimate objects like what we have the government is doing now. They feel they love Cameroon more than us, but I will tell them that they are having it all wrong. Cameroonians need to see in this country they being Cameroonians, not being told. Because when being told, it is an aspect of propaganda. But when you know you are a Cameroonian, it is a sense of belonging. And that is more better than using military or any other method.
Thank you so much, Mr. Akojon, for joining us tonight on Talking Point.
The pleasure is mine.
Thank you so much.
I will always be at your service.
Thank you. To our televiewers, it was equally a pleasure having you with us in this edition of the news. Wishing you a blessed stay in the company of our programs. Until we meet again, goodbye.